Hello,
I am Khyati,
and I am Kshiteissh.
and this is the Heythereabaadi Rockstars podcast.
We are honored to have Mr. Mohit Dodwani with us here today.
Having completed the LRSM, that is Licentiate of the Royal School of Music in piano, Mr. Mohit is one of the most qualified pianists of Hyderabad.
He mentors students, young and old, and also organizes Western classical music concerts and workshops in the city. Please tell us about your journey in music from the beginning in brief. Who were your mentors and how did they influence you?
So, being a typical Indian family, we are all movie buffs. So, growing up watching movies and familiar and fond of movie music as well. So, my grandmom, mother's mother, their neighbor happened to be somebody who was playing the keyboard and the songs of those times, and I was very much fascinated and wanted to learn them. Asked my parents to actually contact the teacher, and we reached out and I expressed my interest in learning Bollywood songs, as we call them. And this is my first piano teacher, Mr. late Joseph Thomas sir. And the blunt answer he gave my mom was like, those all are nothing. I don't teach Bollywood songs, but I teach things even better than that, which is the classical music. So for a child of 7 years old who wants to learn Hindi songs and the latest trending numbers, looking at songs which are 200, 300 years old, it's a very big, sort of a decision to take.
It's a little shocking.
It is indeed, actually. But, I trusted the instinct of, having a good teacher and, wanting to get my musical journey started. Although I'm the first musician in the family, so there's no background per se. And that's how, it just started off. And so, over the course of years, I learned, spent a wonderful childhood with Thomas sir. And, I think for that matter, one of the highlight moments was when about in 2005, we had the first Twin Cities piano competition ever in Hyderabad.
Okay.
The Kavai brand was just launching themselves in Hyderabad for the first time ever. So they hosted a piano competition. Monica Paap, who is the European musician, Jonathan Hewitt, and I forget the third musician's name. All Europeans, they came together to Hyderabad, and at Grand Kakatiya Hotel in Begumpet, they hosted the competition. Now this is no social media back then, so I have no idea who are the people in Hyderabad learning music itself. Outside my own class, I'm just limited to that, this thing. But as I go there, I see 80, 100 participants.
Man.
I'm like, whoa, does Hyderabad even have that many people playing the piano? And then, anyway, and I see all these performances with, people having their fingers fly over the piano and all that. I was even skeptical to perform because I'm like, I just prepared some small little easy pieces that I felt comfortable with. But anyway, I gave it my shot, and as it turns out, I passed the audition round, went to the first round, second round, and won the competition.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
Man, congratulations.
Thank you. Although what was even more moving was the fact that it was a time when financially we were going through lots of ups and downs, so I had no instrument to practice at home. So even the morning when it was announced that I won the competition, that evening I had to play on Kavai Grand. I have no instrument at home. So I go to my friend's place to practice on their keyboard so that I can play in the evening. And besides Thomas sir, my family's been the most incredible support I can think of. Right from my dad, who's probably to the day the least appreciative of the music I play. As in, he's not into that kind of music, but of course the kind of support I can't even imagine. And because our family was going through lots of ups and downs, a moment like this where we were continuing lessons no matter what, we kept moving our homes, had a lot of situations in life, but piano lessons were always given priority, top notch. If sir had given time in the morning for some oral skills practice together, I was even made to skip school for that day to just attend the class in the morning. Turns out I was the only one who turned up. But that's the kind of commitment we had shown. So when the results were announced in the Twin Cities piano competition morning, I can't forget that moment when my dad cheered up, literally got up from his chair, jumping out of joy, screaming out, you know.
Wow.
So something like those.
It's that your family valued your education in music so much.
Very much, actually. They have given me the support. I cannot thank them enough for. My mom is an educator herself, so she knows the value of education all the more for that matter. But the point is to, I think our parents just gave us the best they can to offer and didn't want to compromise on the hard work factor. So that was a moment of, a sort of a life-changing moment in terms of realizing that, okay, probably I'm meant for to do something with music.
Yeah, and that you can have a great future in music.
At that time I had just started teaching briefly at a young age, so I didn't know too much about it. And but yeah, I'd like to thank all my teachers. I've learned with Thomas sir, Mr. Gayatri Prasad, Mr. Karl Lachmeyer, Natalia Kapilova, Blossom Mendonca, with whom I've been learning for the past few years. On the theory side, there's been Champion sir, of course, the gem of Hyderabad, and Mr. Bruce Baker, whom I cannot thank enough either. He's an ocean of knowledge. On the voice front, I've had the privilege of learning with Ashrita D'Souza, and Sandra Oberoi.
Wow.
So I've been blessed with amazing teachers in the past, good number of years, and I'm having a hard time keeping up with them now. So that is there, and I'd like to thank, in fact, all my family members also. So dad is, of course, somebody who does not know music, but still supports me to every extent possible. Mom is very, disciplined, keeping a track of everything, just like your mom is, helping you in all sorts of possible ways to make sure that your, education, life, everything is being as sorted out as possible. My brother, who had to keep up with too many expectations that I keep up rising in terms of, whether it's music, whether it's other things. Incredible support I've received from him. And in the past 5 years, my wife as well. She's been incredibly supportive. It's not easy being married to a musician and a teacher. And in our family, it's a family of full teachers everywhere. So, including my brother's, newly wedded wife as well. So, we're a family full of teachers, and everybody's support is crucial. So, yeah, I would also like to add how I'm forever, in debt to my first piano teacher, Thomas sir. So, I did mention about financial ups and downs that we had as a family, and there were times when he did not take fees from us for a while, and my mom and dad had paid him later in installments when we could. And there was also a time when I was ready for an exam, but we could not sign up for the exam to pay the fees, and he had paid the fees for my exam. And in fact, as we speak, in the next 2 weeks, I will be completing 20 years of my first exam on 16th October 2002 it was.
Wow!
So it's been a long time.
You were the only pianist from India to have attained the LRSM Diploma in 2018. Please tell us about the challenges that you faced during your preparation.
So, as my music level of learning advanced to a higher level, and I was not able to take much help from teachers in Hyderabad, and internet was still not, about a decade ago I'm talking about, internet was still not a very big thing. Connections were not so easy, and meeting people or interacting or communicating with people outside was not very easy, especially from the music fraternity, all the more because we hardly know anything outside Hyderabad per se. So I struggled for a good number of years after my grade 8 to find teachers who could help me in advancing my level. I found some teachers outside Hyderabad. I traveled to them. I traveled to Bangalore to Natalia Kapilova ma'am for a few years, every alternate week for a piano lesson. Then later on that went on to, I moved to going to Blossom ma'am for a while, Blossom Mendonca, who helped me with my LRSM. So every alternate week, sometimes every week if required, for just a piano lesson. But for an hour of piano lesson, if you backtrack right from taking the early morning flight, coming back the same night,
it's a lot of time and energy.
And it takes a lot, but I think I have mentioned about how supportive my family and encouraging it was. Plus the expense it takes on a middle class family, the flights, missing the lessons of that day.
It's quite heavy.
It is quite heavy, but and I'm still somebody who cribs about spending a lot of money. So when I first see these expenses, I'm like, oh, how do we do it? But then, I've been supported quite a bit to go ahead, because when you have the right kind of teachers who are mentoring you, everything is worth it.
And
everything.
they haven't let all these problems stop in your way, your family.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
that also shows you commitment, traveling every other week. That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
think I have this, I don't know if that's the right word, madness from learning and music, and passion is probably a nicer word, but I still prefer madness, because I'm still told at home, there are times I'm just so much about music, and when I teach or when I'm playing myself or that way. So in fact, when Natalia ma'am's interview had come in, I think Deccan Chronicle in Hyderabad, that's where my mom was like, oh, you know what, you must reach out to this teacher, she's so good and all that. I reach out to her, okay, I'm really looking for teachers and I want to help, I want some help and all that. And I asked the fees and I'm like, oh wow, I was paying a small percentage of that as my monthly fees.
Okay.
But you know what, again, so of course that was my initial reaction, but we made it work, including the travel, and good teachers are worth everything they charge. Every single penny, for that matter, every single penny. And in fact, Natalia ma'am had also made me realize that in an industry like this, when anybody can give the top quality of education and all that, you should charge well, also to inspire other people around you that this is something that they might want to do in life. Because why should teaching be a profession where you have to sacrifice not earning enough?
Yeah, and especially in India, where teachers are esteemed so much in our culture.
Absolutely. And especially in a field like music, where good teachers, it's very hard to find somebody who can really mentor you, who can really nurture you, who can encourage you, who has the passion, who has the the quality that makes you really go inspired, and I want to be like them someday.
Yes.
I had that moving experience also when I met Mr. Karl Lachmeyer in Goa for a workshop, and that was a life-changing experience. But anyway, coming back to your question, I'd like to just backtrack to DIP-ABRSM, which is the level right before LRSM. It took me, it was also the years I was searching the teacher, and I found Natalia ma'am right then, and around those years. So it took me almost 3 years to complete the exam. There are 3 portions of the exam: the performance-based, the Viva Voce, and the sight reading.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first year, I could only clear Viva Voce because I had Mr. Bruce Baker who was helping me. Second year, I found Natalia ma'am. I cleared the piano playing part. Sight reading is still a nightmare for everybody. We all know that.
Yes.
It took me another year's attempt to finish the sight reading attempt. It was quite a struggle. Regarding LRSM, much higher level, and so I had met Blossom ma'am around the time. In fact, the same year I was going to do my exam. I met her earlier, but not for regular lessons. But I asked her for a master class and I played for her. She saw a potential in me, and she said that she doesn't generally take students who come to her once in a while, or once in alternate years or whatever. But because she sees a potential in me, she'd like to give me a chance that way. And I was very privileged, and I'm always thankful for that. But it was the month of end of May, early June, and my exam is in October, November, and we are still changing pieces.
My
Oh
God,
my God.
that's a very crucial thing.
Where this is a level where people prepare a set portion for a couple of years.
Yes.
Here,
My
months
God.
before my exam, I'm changing pieces because this is probably not best suiting for me, or
Oh.
It's not what you resonate with. so much.
and from everybody I knew, friends in the fraternity and other senior colleagues or teachers, and everybody had said, what, just don't expect yourself to pass the exam, because it's practically not possible. And for all the odds I had only one thing I could do: practice.
Oh yes.
I could just offer one thing, and that is my
Do
utmost,
what is in your control.
utmost sincere practice. So I think, and by the way, I had just gotten married the year before. So even my wife had to deal with the fact that those couple of months were very intense. Her support of, besides my working hours, practicing for 5-6 hours a day, if not more, forgetting to eat meals, forgetting there's a glass of water right there.
Oh, God.
And I, that intensity that I had to put in, I think I just got quite lucky and God's been very kind that I passed in one attempt.
Wow.
And I've been told by quite a few people that I'm also Hyderabad's first and only musician to do the LRSM in piano performance, but I'm hoping and wishing that there are many, many more.
Thank you, sir. And just one more thing to extend this. We have spoken so much about exams, but it has never been about the exams, right? The exams, the achievement, that's not what's driving you. What's the real reason that you have done all this?
To put it in simple words, hunger for knowledge.
Wow.
I really, people have so many things they like to do. They get dopamine effect or what you'd like to call it.
Yeah.
I get that a lot with music in terms of learning. When I spend time, I'm exploring something very new that it could be a song by a composer, or it could be a piece for that matter, it could be a pop song, it could be anything for that matter. When I'm exploring music and I see something I've never come across before, I'm like, wow, this is so good. And of course, automatically that channelizes in my teaching also. When I'm teaching somebody, I'm like, this is what, nobody has ever observed this. Did you know about this? This is how you should listen to music. And this is why probably this artist is so respected, because they do things out of the box. You don't otherwise hear music makers decoding their music and talking about it.
No.
That is where I love that the most. So if a student of mine is learning a pop song, I don't just teach them the pop song, I'm also kind of breaking it down. Why do you like the song? Why does everybody like it? Because there's probably a chord progression that works, or maybe there's an instrument that's very nice to hear, or maybe there's a singer who's doing some remarkably new things that we have not come across.
Yes. So you are the one who tries to go behind the trick and say, okay, what's the magician actually doing?
I think that's where the magic lies, right?
Yes.
We all listen to music and okay, we like the song, we love the song, probably a song is on our playlist for years on end, but why? Why is it so?
Why?
And each kind of music has its own psychology behind making it.
Yes.
Say in the past 2 days I was teaching somebody some religious songs. Some bhajans and all that. It's also Navratri time.
Yeah.
People are more religious than other times of the year. So we were talking about how religious music is composed, how the melodies are meant to be very repetitive and simple, and on a scale that everybody can sing. It's almost like enchanting when you listen to it. And if it plays on loop also, you never get bored out of it. In fact, it just
there's a
makes you feel
certain
more
energy with it.
Yes, it makes you feel more calmer, more peaceful and stuff like that. So every song, every genre has so much learning to offer. So that is the most important driving factor for me. Exams are a part of it. I think what's happened is that, especially in our city, but rather it's been that way since I have been learning music from my childhood, where we're very exam oriented. I feel exams are good, but exams are not the learning itself.
No.
They are a part of learning. So you do your learning, you do your listening skills, you do your theory, you do your piano playing, you talk about music. There are times I see my students where we have no agenda for the class. And sometimes they also tell me, okay, I've had a very long day at school or at work, and can we just talk about some music? And I'm like, okay, you know what? You like this singer? Let's talk about why the singer is so good.
Okay.
Or you like this kind of genre of music? Let's talk about it. So it's a very holistic approach for learning and teaching, for that matter, and that's how it should be. And yes, exams are also important. You can go and appear them because they give you a goal to work hard towards, especially if you have a date, a particular time of the year, you're chasing something, you have to bring your practice in form, you have to bring in that discipline, that commitment and all that factor. And of course, I think what's even more important is the fact that you get an opportunity to play for a musician with international experience of performing and teaching.
Yep.
That is, we don't otherwise have an opportunity of that sort.
And that they're going to give you such cutthroat feedback.
Actually, I think instead of it being cutthroat, sure, I think it's more so a genuine feedback about how the students can really work upon themselves.
Yes.
And there's also a perception, this examiner was strict and that examiner is quite lenient. I feel it's not about that. That may have to do more with their personality, which we can't know. But what we can know is that they're all trying to help us.
Yes.
They're trying to, I tell my students, with just one listening of your playing, maybe if I can tell you how well you practiced this past week or how you practiced in past few days, examiner can write an essay.
Oh yes.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
But they have to listen to your play. They have to bring all their thoughts in the fewest of words into a small paragraph in which they have to convey the most important things about your performance. And that's what they try to do. They try to help you. They try to help you beyond what your regular music teacher can help you.
Yes.
And those comments are the most valuable part of the exam. And yes, it feels so good to have a certificate from London with your name on it.
So your message is exams are just a means, they are not the end in themselves.
Not at all. They're a part of learning, not the learning itself.
Yes.
You also hold a licentiate in music theory alongside the piano. How has your education in music theory helped you as a musician?
I think theory plays a crucial role in anybody's education. May it be music, may it be a language. Just like when I'm actually, encouraging my students who are new students and they're learning music for the first time and they're probably starting theory for the first time, I explain them how when we learn a language, there are basically 5 elements. The spoken part of it, the written part of it, the listening of it, the writing part of it, and of course the thinking in that language. Creatively, your thoughts being in that language. Music is no different. So which means if you are not learning one element of a language, you're obviously missing out.
Yep.
You're missing a great deal. And if one wants to be a overall good musician in terms of what probably gives you an instant joy is of course playing an instrument or singing, basically engaging in music. But I feel the other elements also, which is the reading music, the writing music, the listening, in fact even creatively improvising, composing, all these elements.
And then there's thinking in terms of music.
Absolutely. I've had so many students over the course of years who actually, when I encourage them to try a lesson for improvisation, of course the children are generally more excited, the adults are a little skeptical. No, I am not a very creative person. I come from an academic background or this sort of a background, so I'm not a creatively inclined person, so I might not be able to try. It's a little harder to push, but believe me when I say, when they finally agree to have a lesson with improvising, I've had times where for the next 2 months or 2.5 months, they have done nothing but just improvisation for the next classes.
Wow.
Because they enjoy the experience of making music. Something that's of your own. Something that you just created with just a few notes or just a few chord progressions.
Yes.
And it makes you realize, wow. And then at the end of even the smallest of attempts, there are times when students have told me, oh, this sounds like any pop song does. I'm like, yes, that's how they make. Simple chord progressions, simple melodies and stuff. So, at the end of the day, it makes you realize the larger picture.
Yes.
And coming back to theory, at the root level, it is a means of communication, right?
It
So
is
just like
something which is behind all of this instinctive process.
absolutely. So whether it's Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, anybody who actually had musical thoughts in their mind, just like an author would do, they would write it in the language they are most comfortable with. So musicians or rather music composers write their musical thoughts in a language which can't be written with just alphabets.
Yeah.
It needs its own language for that matter. It needs its own syntax. It needs its own grammar. It needs its own, combinations of symbols that actually communicate as to you want this to be played more expressively, more soft, more loud, accented, or higher pitched or lower pitched. And if you go back the history of about almost 1,000 years, Western musical notation has evolved a lot over the course of years, right? And now, of course, we have reached a standpoint where we've probably acquired everything that needs to be communicated with a piece of paper and not ink. I mean, there was feather and ink back then. Now we have, of course, not even the pencil or pen. It's all digital format.
Yes.
Whether you use MuseScore, you use some flat.io or some other software or Sibelius or anything for that matter. It's all digitally done. Or Logic Pro or Ableton, any sort of music making software that way for that matter. So musical notation or music theory is nothing but, in the first place, a means of communication. 2, as you keep learning more, you grow a wider understanding of how those symbols are written this way, why they're written this way. There are some norms about doing certain things, some basic do's and don'ts that are there. At a little more deeper level, you start understanding that maybe even you can write your music in that language.
So it's like computer programming with a heart, you mean?
Absolutely. You never know. even in the theory syllabuses, at some point they teach you to start composing for a violin, for a guitar, for a cello, for a clarinet, and it feels so nice that, oh wow, I'm writing for an instrument even I don't play. Isn't it? Of course, you can write for your own instrument as well. And of course, if you study more, you actually start decoding the works of the geniuses and the masters. You're like for example, in my LMusTCL, I studied Schubert's Fifth Symphony. For my LMusTCL, I studied a piano quintet in F minor by Brahms. I was like, and I had not studied these works with this much intensity. You know, at best I must have briefly encountered them, but that's about it. But when you're doing the exam syllabus, and of course I had Mr. Bruce Baker help me through this entire journey, and I've spoken about how much passionate, and high I get with learning and stuff like that. So that's another level of joy and excitement when you're like, oh wow, this is how the symphony sounds so grand and epic. So many instruments being used, what kind of ideas being used, how the ideas are being developed, and each composer not only sounds different, writes music briefly differently in terms of what their characteristics are. Brahms would develop melodies differently than Mozart would have done differently from Bach, how he would have done. So when you read their music, you're like, wow, they really put so much of thought into writing what they did. And it's their life. Absolutely, it just makes you more appreciative of the art and the craft for that matter.
Apart from being an active performer, you have also been a promoter and organizer of workshops, masterclasses and concerts about Western classical music in the Twin Cities. How has your experience been getting people together for this cause?
To sum it up, it's been overwhelming. Attending music concerts, masterclasses, workshops are really important to any education, be it music, be it academics for that matter. But we don't have that many opportunities in Hyderabad for that matter. In fact, that's one thing I wish I had more. And more commonly people kind of mention that these opportunities are a lot more common, say as developed musically more enriched city like Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, and of course a lot more common in the West for that matter, where concerts happen literally every time of the year or pretty much daily for that matter. We don't have that many opportunities of that kind here. So this initiative was primarily to make sure that we encourage people with any musical interest, no matter what age, no matter what level they belong to for that matter. And a lot of people have actually been surprised who attended our events. They've been quite surprised that they had attended these kind of things in other cities, but they never expected such things to happen in Hyderabad. I remember somebody seeing a video clipping of our Mozart's concert back in 2017 and was telling me, oh, you know what, and this person I think had just returned from abroad and I think may have attended concerts there, and was like, oh, I didn't know these things happen in Hyderabad at all. But we have done a couple of them. Of course, there have been other people also doing it, but we have been, trying a little humble effort from our end also to incorporate that as a part of, the music culture, if we can contribute that way. And there have been a couple of shows of ours which have been sold out, right from the Mozart concert in 2017 to even in fact our last Mozart concert, which was in Jan 2020, right before the pandemic, with Mr. Carl Lachmeyer, Ashita D'Souza and Hema Gulati ma'am, and even I had performed there. That was at Audience Française, a sold out event. So I think it speaks enough about the love, support and encouragement people of Hyderabad are also showering at us for the initiative we are trying from our end.
Tell us something about your musical endeavor, Klavier Academy.
Coming from a family of educators, my mom being the first, who spent about 2 decades in the education field, more specifically in the kindergarten field, first running her own school for about a decade, then working with somebody else as a principal of that school. So, there's value for education, there is value for making a change, and her motto has always been to make learning fun.
Wow.
And that has been passed on with the legacy of me and my brother. My brother also started teaching at an early age and joined this legacy forward, and he had a flair of teaching from the very beginning. He's very chirpy and cheerful and makes friends very easily. And in fact, so yeah, we have this way of approaching education where we keep it more. In the first place, I think the bond between the student and the teacher is extremely important, especially in today's times, where if it's just knowledge, you can Google it.
Yes.
That's
You don't need a
information,
teacher.
yeah.
You don't need a teacher for information. You need a teacher for education,
Wow, yes.
right? So a teacher not just tells you what there is, but a teacher finds a way to personalize all that information to how is it relevant to you.
Yes.
Yes.
When we teach students of multiple age groups and multiple levels of playing, there are students of ours who might be as young as 3 years old
Oh, wow.
who have no idea about, okay, I bring an LRSM with me. Doesn't matter if I can't hold that 3-year-old for a music class, if I can't
Yes.
engage that child. Or for that matter, we have retired students, students in their retirement, who probably they know they love the Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, but they love their songs a lot. They want to learn, they just want to casually enjoy the instrument. They have always had the love for instrument. Now, what's the point of my qualifications if I can't encourage that interest?
Oh, yes.
Right? Isn't it? So, which means basically we have to be very adaptive towards each student we teach. And blend of all sorts of teaching methods to see what works best for a particular student. And of course, besides that, trying to contribute into the music culture of Hyderabad by inviting professional musicians and educators from outside also to come and host some events over here, boost the confidence and inspire people that, oh, you know what, there have been a couple of our events where I've had people, small children walk up to me and be like, I wish I can play like that someday.
Wow.
There have been students of ours, it's a personal experience I've seen when students attend a concert, they learn things a teacher must have told thousands of times, but they pick it up in one go.
Yes.
Like right after an event, a student who may have attended the event, when I see them for a next lesson, they're already sitting straight.
Wow.
Yes.
And they may have heard that me saying that every class, but automatically, because you know why? They want to now be a performer.
Wow.
They want to look like a performer. They
Yeah.
want to feel like a performer. Some go a little too far, waving hands too much also. But the point is, they get inspired, they get moved.
Yes.
And these kind of opportunities are really, really important. So Klavier Academy is just a way of me and my brother Pankaj channelizing our love for music and teaching in one go.
Wow. What is your message to students and music enthusiasts?
I feel in today's generation there's a sea of talent. Today's generation is really smart and savvy with everything, technology and everything. But at the same time, there's an ocean of distraction too.
Oh, yes.
But maybe the same technology acts also as a blessing and a curse in some ways. And we have to try our best to make the most of its positives for that matter.
Yes.
And no matter which time in the world you live in, no matter where you live in, certain good old things about life, about anything, music, education, stay the same. Which means you've got to work hard.
Yes.
If you want to achieve anything, you want to learn, you have to work hard, you have to bring in that discipline, the patience, the perseverance. And at the same time, it is extremely important to do all of that with utmost sincerity and dedication. Bring about a passion for what you want to do. It could be learning, it could be doing an activity for that matter. And find a passion that benefits you and others also in some way or the other. And most importantly of all, being thankful and grateful to God for whatever we have.
Yes.
And if I may add, in the span of this 18 years of teaching, my journey started off with traveling in RTC buses to my lessons, and then getting down at the bus stop and walking from the bus stop to my students' home, which could be a kilometer and a half, two, and one thing is I'm actually not very comfortable with dogs. So street lights are not everywhere, dogs are everywhere, but
Yeah.
so not so very comfortable situations that I started off with. Over the course of years, then I upgraded to driving a two-wheeler to my lessons. Then after some point, after many years after that, then driving a car. And today the comfort of working from my workspace. But through the years, if there's anything that's been consistent, is the hard work that I put in. Even today, I have lessons from 5:30 in the morning,
Oh.
and that, with a couple of breaks, they go until about 9 p.m. in the night. So, so the hard work is consistent. The joy that I have, sure, I probably am in a better space now in terms of not wanting to travel or all that, but the happiness and the joy and all that is same, no matter, irrespective of how much or what kind of success I had. So those are some really important factors, the kind of ethics you bring into what you do. Those good old things don't go. So whether you wanna learn music, whether you wanna learn cricket, dance, it applies to every single thing. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on board onto our show here, and thank you for all these valuable insights. I hope our users have learned a lot from them, and thank you very much once again.
It's been a fantastic experience, and I know you both for a few years now, and I'm really glad to have done this with you, as you people are also from the music fraternity, and in terms of also, we don't just have a level of understanding, not just in terms of playing an instrument, but also what we want to give back to the society. So I think it's great that I get a chance to do with you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.